the Alberta Law Enforcement Response Team's Internet Child Exploitation Unit. I'm just going to go through 2 slides explaining what I am, what we do, and just some quick stats for you to show that this stuff is happening in southern Alberta and we're not just really a small town of Lethbridge anymore. So our mandate in the ICE unit is to investigate sexual exploitation of children through the internet and work to reduce harm through public education, something like this tonight, and preventative programs. We've got 2 teams in the province, just to let you guys know. We have a southern team and a northern team. The southern team, which is what I'm a part of, is pretty much our area starts at about Rocky Mountain House and goes down to the border and then each side of the province, obviously. Comprised of a bunch of different police services, and I'm just going to kind of buzz through a few of these things really quickly just because we have, I guess, a limited amount of time. Right? I still have 20 minutes, right? Okay, so the reason I show this slide, it's not a bragging slide, it's not to show stats or anything like that, it's just to show you that this stuff is happening in southern Alberta. So if you go back to 2013, we took in 228 files between, I think we have 9 investigators right now. Unfortunately, in 2015, we took 355 files in, and out of those 355 files, we identified 142 children that were victims of child exploitation. We laid 162 charges, and we charged about 40 people. So usually in our years, we charge about 40 to 50 people every year. That's kind of what the capacity we have to run. This kind of will play into a slide a little bit later. So between June 2016 and December 2016, we seized 481,418 images of child pornography, and out of those images, we linked 1,864 images back to specific victims that we know of child exploitation. So it's just to show you kind of the numbers of what's happening in southern Alberta. A lot of people think that it is Lethbridge, it's a small town, all that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, when you're on the internet, no, there's no such thing as a small town. So I'm going to run through very quickly, again, I apologize, just some current trends we're seeing in the last couple of years that have kind of been spiking up. When I started in the unit, besides having a great head of hair, it was also mostly just sharing child pornography online, not really a lot of the texting, not really a lot of the apps, self-produced child pornography, which we're going to be talking about. So the things we are seeing is a lot of online grooming, obviously, a lot of luring. We're seeing a ton of extortion, and I'll kind of explain how the extortion actually works. False identities, obviously, are what we call catfishing. And we're seeing a lot of self-produced child pornography, obviously, with the selfie-style apps that are out there. Not related to luring per se. A lot of the stuff I'm going to be going through doesn't specifically relate to the 17 or 18-year-old or 15-year-old offender. I'm talking more about the person who's 30 or a little bit above, living in their parents' basement. That kind of person is who we're talking about today. We're not talking about kind of the schoolmate thing. Between child pornography sharing online, we have a project every year called Ice Storm. We ran it in 2016. We found 2 offenders in Lethbridge, and in 2014, 2 offenders as well. And that kind of deals with the more prolific child pornography traders and offenders that there is in the province, okay? So if you really want to boil it down, a lot of the stuff I'm going to be talking about is not really based on my training. I barely have a college diploma, okay? The stuff that I have learned is mostly from sitting in the interview rooms with the guys, talking about why they're offending and what types of offenses they are committing. So if you were really to boil down the type of predators or the people with predatory behavior, you're going to run into short-term and long-term offenders. And this is just simplifying it beyond belief. So short-term offenders are mostly seen in these anonymous chat apps. So I'm talking like Omegle, Kik, or other apps strictly that are meant for chat, not Facebook where they have news feeds and profiles, more just strictly texting chat apps. We see, and this is more from what we see on the bad guys, we'll say bad guys' devices, is when we look through what they have done, we see all the chats, everything like that. What we see a lot of times with these short-term type of offenders is they'll go on these chat apps and they'll pretty much mass message a bunch of people saying, hey, do you have any nudes? Can I get nudes? Can we trade pics? Anything like that. And they will pretty much just do it hundreds of times in a night. And out of those hundreds of times, they will get people who will just randomly send them nude pictures of themselves. The long-term offender, or more the lure or the groomer, I guess if you want to call it that, usually find in these anonymous chat sites as well. But what they will do is they'll start talking to the children in these anonymous chat sites, and then what they'll do is they'll transfer over to a more established Facebook, something like that with a social media profile as well. And from there, they'll kind of gain a relationship. And you see the word trust in there. I think I have it in every slide, and it's underlined and capitalized. And that's what they try to do, is they try to build trust with the child they're talking to, and they try to build compassion and establish emotional connection. Now, unfortunately, once that emotional connection is there with the child, it's harder for the child to talk to their parents about it. They're going to want to keep secrets about it, everything like that. Two of the things that we're seeing in the last couple of years especially is catfishing. I don't really like that term. It's when people create a fake identity to lure someone into a relationship. The relationship will usually start on a chat site, and once that trust is established, it will usually transfer over to another social media application. And that's more what we're talking about is the long-term offender. And then bait videos is something that I'm just going to talk about very quickly. I ran into it twice last year and once this year already. It's a very disturbing thing. What will happen is they will, say a long-term offender will meet on a chat site with somebody and they'll want a video chat with them. So they'll establish that connection, establish that relationship, and then they'll transfer it over to a Skype, to any kind of FaceTime, any kind of thing that has a video chat application. And so what the child will do is they'll be on their phone, the innocent child will be Skyping with somebody, and what they will see on this side of the phone is somebody maybe about their age. It'll be whatever the offender wants them to see. Now, they'll have a chat conversation with them, and it's pretty much just a pre-recorded video that the offender is playing for that child. And then what the offender will be doing, it'll be screen recording what the child is doing on their end of the video. So usually what we have seen is there'll be a lot of texting going on previously, establishing that there'll be a sexual interaction with the two of them on a Skype chat, on a FaceTime chat, or something like that. They will enter into that conversation, and then what happens, the offender will just screen record what is going on. Now, sometimes we've seen it where they will have a couple videos prior of just strictly chatting with the offender and the child. And now what things to cues to look out for is if your child comes to you and says, hey, I'm on Skype, it's buffering a lot, or I'm on Skype and this person's, there's messages coming, but I can't see their hands typing, I don't really know what's going on. That's a clear indication that it could be a bait video or something like that, and that's something you want to talk to your children about as well. The self-generated child pornography is something we're seeing a pretty big rise in. Unfortunately, with all the applications, they all have a nexus to a picture, to a selfie-style. It's a selfie-style application which they're using. So the reason that I showed those two slides previous is those numbers when we seized 418,000 images of child pornography in 6 months, not even 6 months, it was a little under that. The reason that we see that giant spike now is because of these. And I guarantee every time we run into a self-generated or a selfie-style picture of child pornography of a child exploiting herself or himself, that picture has been shared with other people of similar interest, but it all probably started from an anonymous chat site, from a chat conversation with somebody else. We're just seeing a ton of that, and that's kind of what I want to bring it up. It's very hard for parents to talk to their kids about that. Obviously, there's a lot of shame and a lot of embarrassment on the part of the kids, but that's really not something I'm an expert in. I have 2 kids, one's 2 and one is like 2 weeks old, and really, they're never going to touch Wi-Fi in their life. But so once they have a picture, so what will happen is, Bruce talked about it in his presentation a little bit. I'm just going to elaborate a bit on his sextortion. So what will happen is an offender will talk to a child or somebody of a young age, and they'll find out something embarrassing about them. They'll search their social media profiles to find out something, that's embarrassing. I mean, a picture from school that's not good. They'll find out something. There was one file I had recently, just to give you an example, where the person was of a religion where they didn't want to drink alcohol. This offender was able to find a picture of them on one of their social media sites having a drink. They used that picture as the starting point for their sextortion towards that kid. So they said, well, look, if you don't send me a picture of yourself nude, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that picture, I'm going to send it to your family, I'm going to send it to your bishop, I'm going to send it to somebody at your church. And then there's that starting point, and that's where this loop called sextortion, I don't really like the word, but that's what's happening. It's fast becoming a complaint. When I knew I was going to have this slide today, I went through my last 10 files and I looked through the data from the bad guys' devices that we do have. 8 out of 10 of the times, my last 10 files, 8 of those files had sextortion on a Kik chat or on some other form of social media chat on the offender's devices, okay? Now, the only problem is, and I see it every time when I talk to the kids, is that when they get that picture, say, of them drinking alcohol or something like that, and the reason that they just send it to the person or they send them the nude is because they feel ashamed. So that person the child will automatically feel ashamed about it, they'll feel embarrassed about it, and that's why they don't want to go to that support person. But you need to stress to your children, and just use this seminar as a platform to do that. You need to stress to them that I have never seen a situation where the child will send a picture to a bad guy or a picture to an offender, and it gets better. It always starts this downward spiral, and it just gets worse and worse for the child. They will start to become a little bit recluse. They will stay in their room more often, and it's going to create an antisocial behavior in that child that you as parents are going to notice. But the main thing is you need to have that conversation on the forefront before that first picture is exchanged or before they send the offender anything. Obviously, like I said, when I started, a lot of these social media apps weren't really out. Facebook was still cool because parents weren't on Facebook, and now obviously it's different. But it's very easy to enter teen chat rooms. I mean, these chat applications, they're a business, right? And so they're going to want to make it easier for people. They're going to want to make it simple for people. They're going to want to make things that people can use to hide things from their parents. So what I see a lot of on the initial part of the chat conversation is that the offender will make inquiries into the home situation of the child. So I would say, and this is a 20-minute presentation which I took from a 3-hour presentation I did to foster parents a couple weeks ago. So that's why it's so condensed that I'm talking really fast. But the thing is that most of the children we see have been through some sort of turmoil in their life. And really, what kid doesn't have turmoil in their life when they're between the ages of 10 and 18? But we see a lot of foster kids. We see a lot of divorced families, kind of what they would call, quote-unquote, broken home. But that creates a gap in that child's, they want attention, they want someone to trust them, and that's where the offenders, and I've talked to them, and they've told me that, those are the kind of children who they're going to want to talk to, is somebody who has turmoil in their life, somebody who needs a trusting relationship. It just makes it easier for the offender, right? We see a lot of them assuming or creating more than one identity to engage a child to communicate. So when you go home, and you'll hear it in the other presentations, talk to your children. I don't know how to use this thing. I'm actually messing it up. Well, I can't flip slides anymore, so are you able to fix that? Talk to your children about their friends list, because what's going to happen is what we see a lot of is, I have no idea. Yeah, is that the time? Is that it? What we're going to see a lot of is that their friends list are going to have people who they don't know. Honestly, in my Facebook friends list, I have people I don't know. It's just a natural thing. People want to pump those numbers up, right, to get the good friends list numbers. We're seeing a lot of offenders who will create not only one, but they'll create 3 or 4 social media. I can just click the thing, don't worry about it. They'll create 3 or 4 social media profiles, all to engage one child in conversation, to steer them towards their main profile where they're going to be exchanging the photographs, or they're going to be exchanging videos or something like that on. So when you go through your child's friends list, say, how do you know this person? How do you know this person? And if they say, well, this person is a friend of that person, but I don't really know who that person is, they're just kind of a friend of a friend. That's where you want to get kind of a little bit concerned. You want to do a little more digging. You want to have those conversations with your kids. Yeah, you can. And so I said trust. I'm going to say trust so many times tonight. So what they will do is usually automatically, I'm talking more the long-term offenders, not the people who are going to be going on Kick just to send a bunch of people, hey, can you send me a nude picture? Hey, can you send me a nude picture? More the long-term offenders, what they're going to be doing is they're going to be looking for those personal troubles. They're going to be looking for the broken homes. They just broke up with their boyfriend, something like that. And they're going to find those weaknesses by looking at their social media profiles. They're going to farm all the social media profiles that we'll say, the worst way to say it is Target has, and they're going to find those weaknesses. Then they're going to figure out what the kid likes. They're going to figure out how can I show that I like the same sort of things, and they're going to express similar likes or dislikes. And then the other thing that we do see is that they'll make promises that there is no way that they can keep. So we see a lot, oh, well, I can't wait till you're out of high school. You can come live with me. I'll pay for your school. All this kind of stuff, just promises that are just way above and beyond what any feasible person could do. But the children, again, they don't have that frontal lobe development, so they're not seeing the consequences of these decisions. They're just believing them. They're thinking, oh, that's great, that's great. And what's that doing? That's creating trust in that person, and that's creating more secrecy about the relationship, where they're not going to want to share it with their parents or with their caregivers or support person or whatever. Like I said before, they're looking for children who are in major turmoil. They're not going to go and find the captain of the football team who's having a great time, who's loving life, very social person. They're not going to, generally speaking, they're not going to try and target that person. What they're going to do is they're going to look through and target the people who are going through turmoil, who are posting things on Facebook about how sad their day is, they just broke up with their partners, something like that. So it's just a good idea, just if you see that on your child's social media profiles, talk to them about it. And just say, well, since that happened, have you had anyone, confront you? Have you had anyone sent you messages, anything like that? And just kind of get that information from them right on the front end. That's good. You can go next slide. So I think I pretty much blew through this as quick as I can, but just some tips. As you can see, it's up there a couple times. Install those apps on your phone. So if your kid's got Kik, install Kik on your phone. You know, don't go and pretend to be somebody else on Kik, but install Kik on your phone. My phone right now looks like a 14-year-old girl's phone with the amount of apps I have on it. It's disgusting. But it helps me because then you learn what the apps are, you learn what the privacy settings are. There's no way you're going to go on your kid's account and start adjusting privacy settings. No, you get that information first before you go talk to your kid, before you have the discussion about the settings. You can share iCloud's accounts. That's the biggest thing that I'm going to be doing with my kids, and I'm keeping all Apple devices so I can share iCloud accounts. You sync all your accounts to one device, you can log into their iCloud account, you make sure you get that password, and that's going to help you immensely. I'm not going to elaborate on a lot of that. Like the previous presenter said, just go on YouTube and watch some 10-year-old kid explain how technology works to you, and he'll tell you how to sync your iCloud accounts up. Install applications on your phone, 100%. I can't get over that enough. And you need to educate yourself and your children to the dangers of talking to people online. You can use, if you want, just start Googling stuff. Google our unit, Google Alert ICE. Use some examples from the media releases we do. We do maybe media releases on 5 to 10% of our files, but go online, find some media releases and say, hey, look what I found online, look at this. And use that as that stepping stone or that platform. Or even use Tonight and say, hey, Brent Brousset was talking about the law. Do you know this? Do you know that? And use that as that stepping stone to have a conversation with your kids about it. I'm going to quickly go over location services. We're seeing a lot of our offenders will, when they're texting, when they're on social media applications with kids, they're using location services. They're finding out their location and everything like that. This is more based on another presentation, I guess. It's not really about online predators, but this is just something that we're seeing a rise in. So EXIF data is the digital information which is stored within a picture when you take a picture. So if I take a picture with my iPhone, I send it to Brousset, he can see where I took that picture if I don't have my location services turned off, all that kind of stuff. He can see what camera I used, shutter speed, everything like that. So when we were in training, we had a picture. They sent us a picture that says, this is posted to Twitter. Go online and figure out as much as you can about this one person. So from there, so I took the picture. It's not up here, obviously, because I think this is getting live streamed. And so from that picture, if you want to go to the next slide, you're able to use an open source program, so just a program you can Google, and you can find out, see the GPS location of where that picture was taken, that bush and that picture was in the background of that picture, if you want to go to the next one. And then make sure you talk to your kids about, we don't see Twitter being used a lot by our offenders anymore because they're starting to remove a lot of location services, and a lot of parents are wising up and getting their kids to turn the location services off. But just make sure they're not. They gave us a website called Tweeted Trips. And what you can do is you can take someone's user handle, put it into Twitter, or put it into this Tweeted Trips, and it'll show all the GPS locations of that person's Twitter account. So I did it to a couple of guys at the station. Honestly, all the pinpoints were at their house and the police station. I sent it to them and like, adjust your location service settings. And then if you go to the next one, it's just you can do the satellite image with Tweeted Trips. And then if you want, take your phone out and grab a picture of this. It's just a bunch of websites that I want to promote right now. The main one being cybertip.ca. It's essentially, cybertips.ca is essentially my dispatch. So if something happens online on Facebook and you think it's suspicious or you don't like, something doesn't feel right about it, go to cybertip.ca and report it. Or go to Facebook, whatever social media company, and report it. What they're going to do is they're going to generate a file, they're going to send it to me, they're going to send it to whatever investigator is in the area that you're creating that report for. And it's just a great way to start a file and start keeping proactive about this stuff. I see people shuffling back in, so I guess my 20 minutes are up, right? All right, fair enough. So yeah, thanks.